You want to know what one of the worst pains you can experience is?
Spicy food diarrhea.
Getting hurt by someone you've told and explained your pain to.
I was way off.
Hey, fun fans, it's We Enjoy. Smoke Jumper, you still alive? Eric, you still alive?
I am, but it was funny because you like hunkered down, like, because I can see Matt while we're doing this on Zoom, and it was like he was like Obi-Wan when those red energy fields block him and Darth Maul from fighting, and he kneels down and he's like getting ready.
I do, because I do it very late here for me.
That's right.
And so I have to like turn the switch on in my brain to make myself coherent and not super sleepy. And that's you witness the physical manifestation of that.
That is very nice.
It's like psyching up for the big game.
Right. Got to get pumped up. That's very nice to me when it's Survivor season, because, well, Grant, you usually have to do it on the later side for your own schedule. But when it's Survivor season, then I ask for an extra half hour because I want to see.
Because you have to digest what you just watched.
My story.
My stories. Well, if anything that we can understand for each other, it's watching the stories, because that's what this podcast is all about. We are the Mattitude Eric. I am Matt Fowler. Say hello, Eric Goldman.
Hello, everybody.
I have to say,
are you dealing with the slap?
The slap. Are we talking about the Australian original or the American remake?
American remake with Zachary Quinto.
But still with, oh God, what's her name? From
Melissa George?
Melissa George, yes.
Yes, she was in both versions of the slap.
What if we were talking about the Australian slap, but like the Australian award show slap that we didn't know about? Like, what is the Australian version of the BAFTAs? Do they have one?
The kangarooftas, I don't know.
The Aussies, I don't know, where like some incident happened where Paul Hogan
lots of stereotypes, everyone.
Yahoo Serious, where I just named the two biggest Australian celebrities in the world.
Oh, I'm looking at a poster of Margot Robbie on my wall. I think she might qualify.
Bigger than Yahoo Serious?
Bigger than Russell Crowe? I don't think so.
Bigger than Jacko? I have to say, I opened with a line from Firestorm, starring action star of the future Howie Long, and I'm ashamed to say I never saw Angelina Jolie's Smoke Jumper movie, Eric. The one that was written. No, it wasn't written, but it was directed by Taylor Sheridan, who is
that's right, he did. I said that joke wrong, by the way. I should have said like she's bigger than Russell Crowe, because people might debate that I meant to be like Yahoo Serious is bigger than Russell Crowe.
Yahoo Serious is bigger than you, Russell Crowe.
Yes.
Remember when we heard such great things about Young Einstein because it was Australia's like top comedy of all time, and then it came here and it sucked?
Well, I saw Young Einstein at a test screening, so I got to find out early that it was all bullshit.
You knew before everyone else that comedy sucks down under.
The Yahoo Serious had no clothes. The Emperor had no clothes.
Those who wish me dead. Taylor Sheridan, who's now so in vogue because of co-creating Yellowstone and its prequel series, but also just before that, writing Sicario, Hell or High Water, but then writing and directing Wind River too. All great movies. So yeah,
Wind River is a great movie. I haven't seen anything else he's done. Is the funny thing.
I didn't watch Sons of Anarchy either, which is his big acting role. He's an actor as well.
But I did see him on Veronica Mars, which he did a few episodes of.
I must have. Well, unless he was in season 3, I have only seen 2 seasons of that show.
You might have seen it. I think you did see him.
All right. This has been Sheridan Talk on a Nicolas Cage podcast. We are wrapping up our Nicolas Cage-A-Thon in a big way. I think we're going out on a high here, if I do say so myself. I really enjoyed this movie in the main event. We'll talk about it later. The Color Out of Space. Unlike the drizzling shits we went out on with the killer duos run that we had with California. The Color Out of Space, I immensely enjoyed in this main event. And we'll also talk about our next block coming up right after this, because we're going to do another actor block.
The block is in fact a hint at our next one.
Yes, it is. Think of a block and think of a song with the word block in it.
I think that's that right. If at this point they're not getting it, I mean,
I don't know. I think that's tricky. I don't think people are going to pull out a song with the
it's
word
Run
block in it.
DMC. It's tricky, and we're gonna do. What was the movie they did?
Run DMC did a movie.
Yeah, they did, and it had the trailer had Mary, Mary, why you bugging?
Did they ever figure out why Mary was bugging?
They did not. Tougher Than Leather was the Run DMC movie.
Was that just a concert movie though?
Nope.
Was there actually have a plot?
It had a plot. It was directed by Rick Rubin. I'm looking at the plot now, which involves DMC released from prison, reunites with his bandmates.
Were the Beastie Boys in it? Yeah, I was going to say.
Beastie Boys were in it.
Then
Slick Rick is in it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. Maybe we'll do it on this podcast.
I think that we should do that as a breakout. I am so happy, Eric, that the reviews are in and Morbius sucks. I'm so happy that I was right. My Morbius sense was pointing me in the right direction.
I'll say now, because you bring it up, that I was gonna joke, but now I'll just say that I was gonna be like, for the fourth week in a row, I'm gonna recommend a new release for a good thing to enjoy.
Morbius ones that
no, I saw Morbius this morning, and
you had a Morbius morning.
More like Morbius.
More BS. I have to say, I've got a busy weekend coming up here with the WrestleMania in Dallas. And it'll be interesting because you're not coming to Dallas. I will be in the press box. Whether or not I'm there both nights, I don't know. Definitely Saturday.
Okay.
If I want to go through the toil of driving down to Arlington and going through that rigmarole, I will. But again, like you'll be watching it streaming, you'll have a better view of the matches and commentary than I will in the press box. It's just the way it goes. I will be so detached from everything. One of the best press boxes was the Superdome in New Orleans, because it's open air,
right
instead of being like behind glass and like having the sound of the crowd muted,
and to literally have it feel detached. The open air thing helped a lot.
So WrestleMania this weekend, and then I've allowed myself one extra show, not going to NXT because I don't really follow that product anymore, but I'm going to the MLW Azteca Underground show on Friday, which is sort of a soft revival of Lucha Underground that MLW currently does, and I'm very excited about that because it's got Lucha Underground stars that I really liked on the card. I say this to inform everyone that we will sometime after WrestleMania, sooner than later, have a We Enjoy Wrestling discussion episode podcast about WrestleMania Dallas. Dallas 2. Technically, what is this? 38? I don't know. I think it's 38.
Maybe. Sure.
Yeah. Does that sound good to you? Because if it does, we'll just agree that it's 38.
38.
The first 38.
When I hear that number, I have to say it like it's said in Gremlins 2 when she says floor 38 on the elevator.
Where life slows to a crawl.
38.
All right, let's talk about something that I'm way too tired to really talk about, which is the slap, the actual slap from the Oscars this past Sunday night, which I was covering for IGN, sort of doing a live blog, but also breakouts. It was in the midst of writing about how Army of the Dead won the Twitter award for fan favorite movie of the year when this broke, and I had to pause my story on that breaking news story about Army of the Dead to talk about this. I don't have much to say about it, Eric, so you can carry the conversation if you'd like. I'd much rather talk about the Flash entering the Speed Force, quite personally, which to me, side quest here, the fan favorite Twitter thing was specifically for movies that came out in the last year of movies, like the last movie cycle.
Yeah.
The cheer-worthy moment had no time restriction. It was like all of cinema.
Right. It was in movie history.
So it's like, okay, you get the Matrix snuck in there, which is to immediately signal that there was no actual time window set for this. Right. So I'm sure maybe they originally conceived it to be the most cheer-worthy moment of 2021. Mm. They didn't say so. So we got the Matrix, Dreamgirls, No Way Home, and then, of course,
Endgame,
the Flash entering the Speed Force.
But it was weird because Zack Snyder's Justice League was not eligible for like the movie of the year one because it wasn't a theatrical release. Otherwise, it would.
But Army of the Dead got that 1 week window,
right?
And I should know because I saw it in the theater.
It was technically a theatrical release. And of course, it was the Snyder Bros were going to do what the Snyder Bros do, and so it's just funny to me that the Flash enters the Speed Force. Besides the fact of being just epically hysterical as far as like whatever, like a cheer-worthy moment. Yes, that's so memorable. We were all cheering in our homes. But also just it was funny that it was eligible because it still never played in a theater. Like all the other like Dreamgirls and Matrix played in a theater when they opened, but not that moment. But yeah, whatever. The Oscars deserve that because the whole thing, like, we don't have to talk too much about the slap, which is, already, it only happened 3 days ago as we talk. It felt like it happened 3 months ago, at least, if not 3 years, because it's been talked to death at this point. But just to say the Oscars in general, with all their attempts to like hip it up and, do all these things, none of it worked. It still, first of all, went over long. It was longer than the last like 5 years, I think they said. It had these dumb segments. It had these dumb like audience award things. It just angered people that we didn't get to see the awards that were in the pre-show. And
they messed up musical numbers. They messed up introductions. They themed it strangely because like, I don't know why they try to have like themes for the Oscars every year. Like this year's, it was Movie Lovers Unite. What does that mean? Isn't that every year? Isn't that every year at the Oscars? The theme is cinema. I don't understand. Like this year, our theme is movies. Maybe if they tried to paint it like horror movies or film noir or something like that, like actually give it a genre. Other than that, stay away from that because at this point, Movie Lovers Unite, and you get the trio from Pulp Fiction up there, and they're dancing like goofballs in the background, and it really feels to me like the Oscars are for people who are like, haha, yeah, Pulp Fiction. I saw that movie 30 years ago. Royale with cheese and all that. Yeah, I remember. That's really fun. It's just sort of the lowest common denominator of movie fan. I'm just they're always trying to appeal to a younger audience. The time has sort of come and gone for the Oscars as far as that. And it like, what do we say about serialized TV shows? Like in their later seasons, they only really shed viewers.
Right.
So I don't think you pick up new viewers at this point. You only lose old viewers.
Right. And so, yeah, it just feels like an empty thing. Although the Pulp Fiction thing was so weird to me because they were all night starting in the pre-show. Because I was like, I actually missed a moment in the pre-show and was confused because like, why are they showing a scene from Fast and Ridgemont High? Well, because it's the 40th anniversary. And there was this thing all night of like, movies, iconic movies that were having a big anniversary this year that they would note them. And Juno had a cast, reunion presentation because it's the 15th anniversary of Juno. But,
where they talked about the lines written by the writer Diablo Cody, who was not there, the people on stage.
But it's just funny to me that it's like, a notable anniversary is usually in the 5-year or 10-year increment. But Pulp Fiction, the 28th anniversary of Pulp Fiction, just because we can get these people here,
Royale with cheese, man. Yeah, we haven't even talked about the slap. I don't know that I necessarily want to talk about it. I'm just of the opinion that you just sort of settle on. He shouldn't have said it. He shouldn't have hit him. There you go. We were texting back and forth, you and I, about how just like it's become really interesting to me how full on roast mode these award shows have gotten over the years. Ricky Gervais obviously certainly accelerated and exacerbated this to a degree where it's like, who's he going to skewer? Whose feelings is he going to annihilate for our pleasure? There's always been a certain element of like taking the piss out of things, but like Billy Crystal and Steve Martin weren't there just fucking roasting people to death like it was a Comedy Central Jeff Ross hosted roast, the participants actively signed up for. Like, so what we're saying is like anyone who goes to the Oscars who is famous has to take the joke, and because that's the deal, and that's what we demand of our celebrities because they're rich and because they don't have to worry about rent or where their next meal is coming from. So fuck their emotions, right? Like. It's strange, like what a beast it's become as far as like insult comedy.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even think about the people to some extent, but a lot of people were expressing on Twitter, especially like a lot of like screenwriters and people we follow, that it's also weird that it's become like roasting the like movies, like as much as it's like tonight's a tribute to the movies. The fact that, you know, a lot of people took umbrage, rightfully so, with the fact that they're like, oh, these cartoon movies for kids, right? And we're it's so annoying we have to watch them. And
one of the animated nominated films was like about like a wasn't it like about a queer refugee's experience?
Yes.
Like it was literally for like grown-ups.
Yes. Yeah. And then, so like, this weird sort of dismissal of animation as an art form. And, you know, they make their snarky jokes about, oh, the power of the dog sure is long, right? And just like, I don't know, just it felt weird because it's like, wait, all right, like this.
Do we like movies, or do we just like
right.
dancing and saying Royale with cheese? Right.
I understand that the inclination is like, hey, like we're like we can take a joke here and we can like, you know, have fun with ourselves. But at a certain point, it just feels like, it just feels like they're embarrassed. And that's what it feels like with a lot of the things they're trying to do. And like you said, it's like, they're not going to gain new viewers for the most part. So don't you want to hold on to the viewers you have?
That's the thing. It's like they feel like self-deprecating and coming off as less elite is going to gain a broader audience. And I mean, look, the ratings were up quite a bit from last year, but there's a lot of things that you have to consider with that. There's the slap of it all, but there's also the fact that last year's Oscars, everyone was indoors the previous year and watching movies. And so all these movies that were nominated didn't get theatrical releases and were super like small and sort of like part of the average viewer's blind spot, right? Like even more so than usual.
Right. Yeah, it made it complete sense that they'd be so low, the ratings last year. And the slap, I mean, at this point, it's hard to think of what else can there be to be said about it. You know, it was a crazy moment. It was crazy that, you know, we were all having in that real time thing of like thinking it was a bit and then bleeping.
Oh yeah, for sure. When he's walking up, I'm like, oh, this is like a pre-planned slice of shtick, right? Like,
right. And then they take out the audio and I'm like, oh, Chris Rock cursed, but I still thought it was a bit. But then I was like, why did they take out the audio for so long? And the reason was because Will Smith kept cursing. But in the moment, I just was confused. And then just the main thing was like, the main thing I will say is like, it just the fact that it took the wind out of the sails of the entire rest of the show. And that is where I feel like I feel bad for Questlove, who won right after and had a big emotional speech, but everyone was doing was being like, what the fuck just happened? And then even like, you know, the in memoriam, which, you know, was a little bit, you know, sort of divisive, even the idea of like, it was like, you know, let's be like upbeat and like celebrate instead of being somber. And I'm not against that in theory. I think it could have been done better as far as like the people like dancing were kind of blocking the screen of seeing who we're talking about. But at the same time was the problem of being like, all I can think about is one of the most famous actors in the world just slapped one of the most famous comedians in the world. So yeah, it just was a strange thing that like,
it just felt like that they wanted to like not hold reverence for movies, right? Like that if they take movies too seriously, which is exactly what Oscar night is all about, God damn it, then they lose, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Joe Schmo voter and well, like they're gonna think that we're up our own asses again, and only like, you know, and here we are preaching empathy in other people's journeys. They're gonna hate that.
Right.
And then so the worst part about the slap is all the hypotheticals that sort of came out. And while it's sort of like it's interesting to see hypotheticals, but it's dangerous to indulge them because playing devil's advocate is one of the worst things you could do because there's enough advocates for the devil these days. So it's like people tweeting like, would he have slapped Betty White, which is ridiculous. But then like, would he have slapped The Rock? Did he only slap Chris Rock because he's smaller? Like there's so many different angles to, you know, talk about, but ultimately it comes down to us witnessing it, them to sort out on their own. Will Smith apologized online the next day, and hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, he's able to. I know he's, you know, undergoing therapy, and I hope he's able to sort of sort out what it was about this moment that made him act like that in front of millions of people and commit an act of violence. We'll see.
Yeah. And the Academy, I mean, of course, now the Academy is coming out and saying more and saying they're looking into what will happen as far as disciplinary action. They're also saying like that, you know, they said like that they asked him to leave, which he declined. Now, of course, the whole thing, of course, is like, shouldn't he have just been told he has to leave? Because the one thing I'll say, the hypothetical thing, which, of course, like you said, Matt, it spirals out of control into so many crazy scenarios. But I will absolutely say that if any person who wasn't a movie star had gotten up and done that, they wouldn't be returning to their seat. If any nominee in any of those 8 categories that got put in the first hour, much less the ones that were during the show, for
the fucking sound mixer from Dune got it.
Right. If he gets up and slaps Chris Rock, he is not returning to his seat. So they will have, not that I expect this is going to be a regular event, but obviously, and I'm sure that like everyone working on the Oscars is stunned because of the level of fame of the person who just did this, who's sitting in front row center. So it's like the last thing they want is to make it a bigger scene. But now they're going to have to come up with a weird contingency. And I'll turn this into a mention that's also going to be a shameless plug for the fact that I am moderating the Paley Fest panel for Cobra Kai next week. Tickets on sale now at Paley Fest website, but it's at the Dolby. I will be on that stage moderating, and I'd put like a tweet about like early in the night about like which celebrity should I try to evoke the energy of when I'm on this stage, not knowing that I'd have some very strange possibilities as the night continues.
Well, at least you'll have Ralph Macchio and Billy Zabka up there to help defend you.
That's true. I will have all of the Valley's finest,
all Valley's karate championship. Yes. Because we know how important karate is to the Valley.
That's
obviously.
right. I might have bought a new t-shirt. It's not a real word. Bought a new t-shirt expressing some All Valley for the occasion.
That's like when I would always have shirts made. Like when I moderated the panel for The Purge, I had one that said, "This is my Purge costume." That's it.
Right.
And then what was it? What did I moderate at Comic-Con once? Shadow Bastards. I can't remember.
Your favorite show.
My favorite show, Shadow Bastards.
Damn it,
now I really wish that was an ongoing series. Shadow Hunters. And I had a shirt that said "mundane" on it because that's their term from Muggles.
I would have loved if you said, if you got up on stage and said, "Thanks for coming to the panel for Shadow Bastards."
But I did. Well, speaking of misspeaking, I introduced Catherine McNamara wrong on, like, when I brought her out. I said Catherine McKenna. She's since gone on to be a part of the Arrowverse, but yeah. So I fucked that up.
Well,
stories from moderating.
It happens. I've Maria Avgeropoulos. So many hundred panels. I just said it right, but trust me, I did not always say it right.
I would just say Papadopoulos because. And
she and I talked
Webster.
about it. I mean, she was friendly with me about it, but I'm sorry, Marie. I screwed up your name so many different ways. But
all right. The worst one was when I had to moderate a Mike Tyson's Mysteries panel and was told right before the panel Mike Tyson wasn't making the come.
My god!
And you just have two of the writers who are very nice and honestly also wrote some of my favorite episodes of the new Looney Tunes show. So I talked to them about that. All right. Let's move on to other celebrity news. We already talked about this lap way more than I wanted to and intended to, but that's just how this podcast goes. Bruce Willis. So here's where I want to apologize, I suppose, because you and I on this podcast have, while talking about Nicolas Cage specifically and his avalanche of direct-to-video movies, sort of also bring up Bruce Willis because they sort of parallel this. In fact, Bruce Willis does more than Nicolas Cage, and really, he's ramped it up over the past 3 years. Before that, he was doing theatrical releases mixed with these direct-to-videos, but over the past 3 years, he's really just done 8 of these a year.
I mean, the amount of press releases that we get for these
are
insane.
We talked about how he and Nicolas Cage differ, which is that Nicolas Cage actually stars in these movies and gives his all and like commits to the performance and doesn't phone it in and signs up for projects that he actually likes and is interested in and cares about. Bruce Willis seems to not care because He's barely in the movies, and if at any point they can use a stunt double or shoot him from behind and use just a ball-headed double for him,
right,
he uses it, and he's often sitting down. He's often shoots all of his stuff in a couple days. Now I wonder how much of that, and you and I have actually openly discussed, like questioned, what's his deal? What's his situation? Why is he doing this now?
Mm-hmm.
Does he have debt like Nicolas Cage had? Is he trying, like, what lifestyle is he trying to uphold by constantly working? And it has come out that he is now retiring because he has been diagnosed with aphasia, which is absolutely awful.
Yeah.
So if any of his past work for the past few years, because this sort of like abundance of direct-to-video movies where he's sort of barely present and has limited work schedule has to do with aphasia, I sincerely apologize, because as we all know too well, obviously, there's always stuff we don't know about people, and there's always a door that opens to the unknown. And when we're talking about other people's experiences and journeys, and we should be respectful of that. And the fact that, like, if any of that had to do with his actual health condition, it sucks. As somebody who actively reviewed Cosmic Sin for IGN, and questioned, like, he wasn't the only bad part of that movie, obviously.
Right.
There were a lot of other factors contributing to that. But I do wonder how much of this type of movie just fit, like, the work environment is what the only thing he could do. And I don't know if we'll get an answer to that necessarily, but
we might not. I'll mix this is going to be a complicated thing because I want to, first and foremost, because it's just such a sad, awful thing. And second, completely agree with you. Like, if this recent stuff was at all mixed with that, I apologize too. My weird sort of unapology is I will say, like, being realistic, and don't worry, I'm about to get to saying some very nice things about Bruce Willis. But realistically, I was thinking back, I'm like, the Bruce Willis's phoning it in thing goes back like the better part of 15 years.
It does. And we're talking about like the Kevin Smith movie and like,
right.
And
to the point that when in 2012, and I think I've mentioned this, how 2012 he had Moonrise Kingdom and Looper, two movies he gave really good performances in and felt the most engaged he'd been in a long time. We're like, oh, look, Bruce Willis is doing it. So I'm like, oh, 2012, we were already expecting him to not be doing it. So I don't think it can only be that, but it's probably a mixture.
He definitely, it's like we weren't necessarily accusing him of anything that we hadn't witnessed already in his career.
Right.
And he always sort of, especially in the past 15 years, he did ebb and flow with his interests. Like, I think the last thing he showed up for was Glass.
That's what I agree. A movie that I don't hate like some people, and I definitely thought he was good in.
I don't hate Glass. Yeah.
I thought he was doing it, but the other, you read that, it's very sad. But also, it's like the reason I think we were so frustrated with Bruce Willis for better part of the last 10 to 15 years, but there were always exceptions that would come in, was because we love Bruce Willis. Like, in the 80s and 90s, it's like not only was he a huge movie star, but just such a like cool, unique presence as far as like, I know it's a cliche to say the everyman. But again, going back, first of all, we go back to David Addison on Moonlighting.
So as possibly the elders to most of our listeners, we go back to actually witnessing Bruce Willis make, at a time when this was very rarely done, rare, the leap from TV star to movie star.
Right.
It didn't come right away. It happened with Die Hard, but he was getting some. Mostly they would go, if you did TV, you did rom-coms like Ted Danson and Tom Selleck and stuff like that. So he did Blind Date, he did Sunset, and it's sort of slow going, and then Die Hard hit, and then what would follow would sort of be a career of high low, which is like he would have a run of 2 good movies and then a bad run of 3 bad movies, and so he had that, and then he cooled off with sort of the double whammy of, so he had Die Hard 2, and he had the Look Who's Talking movies where he only did the voice. So he was sort of on fire, and then Bonfire of the Vanities and Hudson Hawk sort of like cooled him off for a few years until
even though Hudson Hawk is great.
Hudson Hawk may be mentioned later in this podcast, in fact, during a different segment, but he had a music career. Like, he was just like flooding our pop culture brains back then. And yeah, he had a couple albums that were released, and he was the epitome of cool. And he has done in his time some really incredible films, like some really, like, if you talk about famous movies from movie history, like Sixth Sense and Die Hard, and even like the sci-fi films like Looper and 12 Monkeys, and just incredible. And aphasia in its own right is such a tragic nightmare that you wouldn't wish upon anyone, which is normally aphasia is sort of the result of a stroke in people where you lose the ability to communicate, but then also sometimes the ability to understand other people when they speak in language. So I don't know how this will manifest necessarily in Bruce Willis, but it is certainly a tragic thing to have happen.
Yeah, no, it's super sad, and I know it's weird because it's like, he is alive, so then it seems like a weird thing where you feel like you're giving like eulogy because you're talking about his career, but at the same time because he's has to retire, and that's so sad. But yeah, like just thinking about, like you mentioned, so many great movies he did, and also just again that he was a very unique presence. It's very interesting that he got, like, he did Planet Hollywood and all that stuff, and he became like an iconic action star alongside Schwarzenegger and Stallone. But you go back to the first Die Hard, and the huge part of the appeal of that movie was like, that it was an outlier as far as like treating like this guy at the center of this crazy action movie with over the top scenario, but he felt so much more genuine than like a Schwarzenegger.
But because they made him an everyman, they tried to ground that action as much as possible. Like the fact that like his feet would get cut up by glass. The fact that he would say that he was like praying that he didn't die when he jumped off. Right. These were big moments that didn't usually happen.
And pretty sure he was going to die, like telling Al, like, here's what you need to tell, Al, that how good he was doing that. And, he was still good in the sequels. Well, maybe not the fifth one, but nobody came out well in the fifth one. But, the sequels suffered from I was just thinking about the strange analogy of the Die Hard sequels to the Naked Gun sequels, which also have their moments, but the more they went on, the less it was like Leslie Nielsen of playing straight man versus Leslie Nielsen's being outwardly goofy. And with the Die Hard sequels, the longer it goes on, the more it turns John McClane into a superhero, because you can't ever really recapture every man trapped in a crazy situation once it becomes a recurring event in his life. But it's just like impossible to picture Die Hard with anyone else because he was so perfect in that. But that's not at all his only great performance, because he gave plenty others.
I think we just sort of also mourn the fact that he didn't go out on a high note cinematically. Yeah. And you wish, like, if he did have limited parameters for his gigs, like that he could have found better movies to just cameo in, or something like that.
Right. Especially because it's just interesting. I mean, again, it's his life to lead the way he wished, but it is interesting that it's like there's no doubt that a lot of like young cool directors who grew up loving the same movies we did would have loved to have Bruce Willis in them. And yeah, I just don't know what exactly was going on that led to certain decisions. But again, it's unfortunate, like you said, but at the same time, he certainly has quite a hell of a resume. Even with the stinkers, there's just so many.
So stinky. And I guess, yeah, he has like 16 movies coming out this year and next year.
Crazy.
So it was like he was just getting, and so many of them are with Frank Grillo too. So there must be some sort of like bizarre agreement that they've got. All right. What else? Oh, well, let's actually skip Moon Knight, and we'll just talk about Moon Knight when it wraps up in 6 episodes. You can read my review on IGN.com of the first episode. A lot of people's reviews that dropped yesterday ahead of the premiere, which was today as we record this on Wednesday night, are reviews for like the first 4. I'm doing, because it's IGN, I'm doing episodically, so my reviews just for the premiere, and then I'll do weeklies for the next 5 weeks. But so then we'll do a Moon Knight wrap up when it's all done.
And you can look at me and Kim Taylor Foster's video review of the first episode. We will also be doing weekly reviews on Fandom's YouTube channel.
There you go. 2 options for Moon Knight reviews. Moon Knight starring Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. Look at them. They're doing stuff. It ain't Morbius. That's what I say. Hey, let's get into some emails here. All right. Actually, this email, we don't really have a lot of emails, but I do realize that I missed one back from February 9th. I don't think I read this one. If you think I read this and I don't remember
and all it is predictions for what will happen in the rest of February and March.
Yeah. There's going to be a slap.
A very famous person is going to slap another very famous person. I don't know where, but
I don't know where, but millions of people are going to somehow be able to witness it. This comes from Nick, who writes in, greetings and salutations. Thanks, Heathers. Heathers might also be brought up later in this podcast.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Longtime fan of your discussions going back to channel surfing. I wanted to ask if you two might review Twin Peaks Fire Walk with me in your main event soon. I don't know about soon, Nick, but maybe that's certainly something we can keep in mind. I don't know, Nick, how we would do that outside of the context of reviewing the whole series, but we'll see. Nick continues, I bring up the film for a couple reasons. I am binging the original run of the series now, partly based on your recommendation and love for the series. The second reason is because I had heard many now consider the initially panned but now reappraised film to be a masterpiece. The Alamo Drafthouse in my area of Northern Virginia is screening the film in celebration of the film's 30th anniversary. I plan on finishing the first 2 seasons before seeing the film and would love to hear your analysis of the film afterwards before I watched the 2017 relaunch of the series. Keep up the great work, guys. Shakma. Nick, thank you so much for your note, and thank you for wanting our opinions on Fire Walk with me. I don't know that we can time it with your binge schedule.
Well, at this point, we have to believe he's moved on.
I would hope so. I hope he's just not waiting for us on.
I mean, first of all, because I saw Fire Walk with me in Alamo Drafthouse a few weeks ago, and I'm guessing he did too.
Yes, he did. And the reason I knew this existed is because he actually sent another email saying, glad you enjoyed it at Alamo, because you must have mentioned it on the podcast. So I did not get tickets to see Fire Walk with me at the Alamo Drafthouse, but even if I had, that was the exact day that we froze over here and no one was able to drive anyway. So I would have had to cancel my tickets. But yeah, maybe we can include that in a sort of a Lynch run. Again, though, it would, people would have had to have watched Twin Peaks for it to make it barely makes sense, even if you've seen Twin Peaks, much less actually.
Yeah. There's no perfect way to watch it.
David Lynch films are a lot like what Benoit Blanc says in Knives Out, where it's like, it just doesn't make any sense, but it's so compelling. That's David Lynch in a nutshell. And Fire Walk with me, it was one of those films that was panned initially and has now been sort of reappraised, much like a film I might be talking about later in the podcast.
Are you going to talk about 20 movies?
Yes, these are all different things that I'm mentioning, by the way. No, it's actually one thing. But yeah, I always love Fire Walk with me.
Yeah, I was going to say that we both always loved it, and not to be braggy, but we did both always love it. I loved it when it came out, although I do remember the person walking out of the theater ahead of me sarcastically going, now I understand everything, and appreciating.
All right, that must have been loud, but
right. And I don't know if I've mentioned on this podcast, maybe I mentioned about Matt is really laughing.
No, there was just such so many things ran through my mind. First of all, being on dating apps and seeing the phrase fluent in sarcasm all over the place and making me wonder if people really understand what sarcasm means. But sorry. And then I also immediately thought of the Kids in the Hall sketch where Dave Foley plays a guy who isn't sarcastic, but he's cursed with having a sarcastic tone. Right, so everyone hates him. He's like, no, I just talk like this. I really want you to be my friend. And like, okay. So I remember also at the time, sorry, real quick, that people were upset that they thought it would answer the cliffhanger of the show.
Right.
And it didn't at all.
although there were deleted scenes we'd eventually get decades later,
yes,
that did somewhat involve after the show, which we'd heard about. It was like it was like, oh, we'll never get those, and then we actually did get them finally. The last thing I was just going to say is just noting, if I haven't mentioned on this podcast, I might have mentioned it on our previous podcast, but that when Matt and I were roommates, Matt went through, and and Matt and I both would do this, like get like super into a movie and just watch it over and over again. But Matt was on a huge Fire Walk with Me kick. We own the movie, we love the movie, but there was a couple months where I was coming home and he was regularly watching Fire Walk with Me,
like in the dead of like the witching hour
with no lights on. I'd walk into our apartment and he was he's watching Fire Walk with Me again, and then I'd often watch the rest of it with him. Because
I was like, pull up a chair for a heaping helping of Nightmare. How about that? Yay! The kids love nightmares. All right, let's get into our good things to enjoy. If we enjoy, you can follow us on Twitter individually at the Matt Fowler and the Eric Goldman. You can follow We Enjoy Podcast on Twitter and write to us at weenjoypodcast@gmail.com. Also over on Patreon, you can become a patron of the podcast for a few dollars a month and get a completely ad-free, interruption-free version of this podcast. Let's talk about our good things to enjoy this week before we move on to the main event. Good things to enjoy, and then we'll mention who our next actor block is. Eric, what is your good thing to enjoy that you would like to recommend to people this week?
I am going to, before I do that, I'm going to do one of my quick pushing physical media things, because two things that I just caught up. I had a little pile of Blu-rays and 4Ks I got sent, and so I just want to mention two things that movies we've talked about already on this podcast. But I wanted to mention the Encanto and Scream 4K release. Encanto has actually been out for a few weeks. I just hadn't had a chance to actually look at it, and it looks beautiful and it looks great. And I'm all about them special features, and there's a ton of them. It's not quite up to Mitchell's versus the Machine standards of special features, which was and the kitchen sink, which I loved. But it's still a lot, and there's like a lot of good stuff about Colombia and all the research they did and traveling there and the music and how the influence of it. And there's a bunch of deleted scenes with introductions.
Colombia, Eric. Colombia.
Yes. And that's very true. I just said that like a wonderful American. And yeah, I really liked all the stuff.
You said it like the school we went to, which was
Columbia Prep. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, it's a really good home release. I know there's the digital version too. But yeah, the 4K looks great. And if you're a big fan of that movie, which I am, it's funny. I tweeted Mitchell's vs. Machines was what I wanted to win the Oscar. Just that was where my heart lied. But I wasn't mad about Encanto winning because I think that's a great movie too. I just would have liked Mitchell's, but watching all this,
I just felt like Mitchell's was more of the underdog in this situation. It was sort of rooting for that, but yeah. Because again, I think Spider-Verse is like one of the only times a non-Disney film has won that category. But yeah, this is a great release of a great movie. If you like it, you should check all that stuff out on it, because there's lots of deep dives. And also that we didn't mention talking about the Oscars, that doing that song and not doing it right was on my list. Oscars of the many grievances. That movie has a lot of grievances list. They made Chris Jericho's list hard. By the way, Eric, this week on We Enjoy Podcast, we did talk about Bruno. And by that, I mean The Return of Bruno, which was the name of a Bruce Willis album, which I think we're to believe. Was that his nickname? Did his friends call him Bruno? Or was Bruno like his blues persona?
It might have been. Yeah. I think so. Maybe, yeah. They called him Bruno. And then I also wanted to briefly mention Scream 4K, which comes out this coming week. So April 4th, maybe it's just next week, which looks great and has a really fun commentary. I wish there was a little more than the commentary. There's like 3 featurettes that are okay, but I thought they could have done a deeper dive sort of documentary on it. And there's deleted scenes, which none of which like changed the movie. But there's a little more Dewey. There's a Dewey and Sheriff Judy scene, and I was sad the movie did not have a scene between the two of them.
Oh yeah, that did felt a little.
Yeah. So they did have a scene together, and there's another Dewey scene that's him introducing him earlier. That I agree that cutting it was the right choice. Like bringing him in when they did was better for the movie.
It's just him waking up in a crack house.
No, it's actually him. In the for those who haven't seen it, I'll try to keep this brief, but when they're in the bar and Vince, the Kyle Goner character, like comes up to them and they get in the big argument with him.
So is Dewey there like in the background? Like
no, Dewey tries to help but just gets punched out because he's like a drunk loser.
I'm glad they cut that.
No, yeah, his introduction later is better. Yeah. But anyway, I would have liked a little more special features on this one. The commentary is good though. But it's a great transfer. So 2 recommendations there on my physical media kick, and then my actual good thing.
No, look at you cheating. Look at all.
I know I'm a cheater. Is also tied to physical media though, because I just watched the Blu-ray of this, which comes out actually it just came out last week. But Red Rocket is what I wanted to recommend, which came out limited release last year. I actually went to the premiere of this at I can't remember what theater it was, at some funky fun old theater. But this was the movie from Sean Baker, who had done the Florida Project. I know he's done some other films, but the Florida Project, which got Willem Dafoe an Oscar nomination a couple years ago, and was one of my very favorite movies of the year that came out. Red Rocket is funny. I mean, I'm recommending this movie while I'm also saying I didn't love it as much as Florida Project, but I still think it's really interesting, even though it made me feel a little uneasy, but I guess I kind of admire that ultimately. If you've heard about this movie at all, you might have heard about it as kind of like the comeback project for Simon Rex, who most people probably would know as the star of the later Scary Movies.
But, you and I knew him first as an MTV VJ.
We knew him as a VJ. He was on some Felicity episodes. And he was definitely had he was a pretty boy. He was a very handsome man.
He actually did have a background in porn. He
had a background in making some solo adult content that came up when he became a celebrity. And he has certainly been off the radar for a while, but this was, a big comeback project for him that got him legitimate Oscar buzz. He didn't get a nomination, obviously, but he was doing a lot of press. He did big, interviews with people who did get nominated, and some other, and Nicolas Cage, who did not. But this movie, like, basically Sean Baker loves to focus on like very sort of like small, not just small town, but people usually who are very poor off, like usually don't have a lot of money. But he's very empathetic about it and very sort of like, matter of fact about people who are
like he's just sort of like into the dopey destitute, right? Like,
right. But it doesn't feel like he's making fun of them.
No.
I mean, a Florida Project obviously was not at all. I mean, it was very, very empathetic towards this little girl growing up in this situation. But this movie, the sort of hook of the movie is that Simon Rex plays a porn star, a guy from a tiny town in Texas who went to LA, became a porn star, but now he's over the hill. He's in his 40s. He's no longer the young stud. Comes back to town with a beat up Bruce face, because it's very quickly understood that this is a guy who causes trouble, brings trouble, but he's very goofy and likable. But the basic thing here is this guy is a piece of shit as the movie progresses, especially when you see the main crux of the movie, which is he moves back in with his she's not technically his ex-wife, but his estranged wife, who reluctantly lets him live with her and her mom just on the couch. But then he seduces a 17-year-old girl working at a donut shop, and they start having an affair, but he starts to see that she could be his ticket to get back into the porn game, because he could bring her to LA and make her a big star that he could be like, glommed onto. And he's just completely this parasitic person using this girl. And the movie is very like Sean Baker does. It's very like just sort of, it's, even though in no way does the movie make him a hero or a good guy, it's also not like, sort of damning him at every moment, though he is certainly called out for a lot of his shit. So you feel kind of creepy about a lot of the movie, but it's sort of darkly funny, very observational. Simon Rex is great in it. Also, Brie Elrod, who plays his estranged wife, is really good in it as well. She was a porn star with him who years before decided she wanted out and moved back. And she's, sort of been dealing with off again drug problems. And I thought Susanna Sun, who plays the teenage girl, is great in it. Kind of a breakout performance for her. So yeah, it was funny when the movie ends, you're kind of like, oh, because this is like a bad person. But there's a lot of movies about bad people.
Yeah. Every time I think about a movie about a bad person, I think of Mike Leigh's Naked with David Thewlis. I don't know if you ever saw that. Just a sort of a film centered on a complete deplorable human being. But yeah, right. It can be done, and it can be done to critical acclaim. So yeah.
And a very interesting thing I will mention is, like, Sean Baker has little tidbits of his politics have come out that make me feel I wouldn't agree with all of them. But he did an interesting thing here, which is this movie is set in the lead up to the 2016 election. and it's not made a huge, like, it's not front and center, but Trump and Hillary are like on the TV throughout the movie, like giving speeches and stuff. And it's been brought up in interviews with him and stuff. It's like there is something, there's some interesting parallels as far as like Trump and this main character is sort of like a person who's all about sort of selling themselves. And like, I'm going to tell you like what I can do for you in kind of a used car salesman way. Because you see how his character can make some people do things even though they'll probably later regret it because of the way he's like so just selling it, big smile on his face. Anyway, the movie grew on me the more I thought about it. The Blu-ray is really good. It's got two commentaries, Matt, one from Simon Rex and Sean Baker, one from a critic kind of analyzing it. There's one little featurette, that's it. But yeah, good stuff. If you check it out on Blu-ray, great. If you check it out digital, great. Yeah, Red Rocket is my recommendation.
There you go, Red Rocket. By the way, no shame in the game if Simon Rex, yanked his crank to pay his rent early in his his days. I don't mean that. I do think that maybe it like helped and lent itself to this character somehow. With the background. All right, my review. My good thing to enjoy, not my review, is, and this is all the things I was mentioned beforehand, rolled into one, Hudson Hawk. Trying to think of a Bruce Willis movie I could recommend that was, I don't know. I was looking for under the radar, but like, I think even his under the radar ones that were good are mostly known to people. This is one that was like his Waterworld. This is like his big disaster after riding high for like 3 years.
Coming off of like the second Die Hard was a huge hit.
And even in the same year, he had Last Boy Scout, which I don't think was a big hit, but like it was still him as like a big serious action star in a film that I still enjoy for its outrageousness. But Hudson Hawk is a complete batshit movie that they didn't know how to market. I specifically remember being excited for the movie because the trailers made it seem like a Die Hard style action movie, very serious in tone, very earnest in intent, and they didn't know what to do. And I remember the whole thing was Catch the Hawk. Like even the posters were like Catch the Hawk. The trailer said Catch the Hawk. Him swinging through the air on whatever rope he had. And I don't even think the trailers had a lot of dialogue in them. And if they did, they just chose really like specifically chose non-goofy dialogue because this movie is a screwball action comedy. So people went and saw it and were like, what the fuck is happening in front of my eyes? And it got critically trashed and it was, like I said, took the wind out of his sails almost instantly. And he wouldn't recover until Pulp Fiction, and which led him in, got him back in favor until he blew it again with another slew of bad movies until Sixth Sense brought him back. We said, he sort of was up and down a lot. I guess it went Pulp Fiction, 12 Monkeys, then he stumbled for a while.
Right.
Hudson Hawk, admittedly, I have not seen in a long time, but I remember the times that I did see this over and over again, probably just throughout the 90s and the early aughts. I very much enjoyed this movie. And I remember seeing it in the theater and really liking it. I don't know that I would call it, I know this segment is good things to enjoy. I don't know that I would call it necessarily a good movie, but it sure is entertaining, and that's good enough for me, and that's good enough. I think it should be good enough for you too.
No, I watched this movie last year in last January.
Oh, good. So you can tell me if it holds up. Good.
I thought it totally held up because I enjoyed it when it came out too. Basically, it's one of those movies where, of course, they didn't know how to promote it because I think the studio was like, what did we just spend like all this money on? This is this weird little movie that we want to try to make a huge summer blockbuster, and that's just not going to work.
Maybe we shouldn't have gotten the writer and director of Heathers and the writer of Batman Returns to write what we think should have been a straightforward Bruce Willis action vehicle. So it was also, like I said, a vanity project in the sense where like the wardrobe seemed like it came off of his album covers, and like the little tiny sunglasses, the round sunglasses,
a lot of affectation.
Yeah, like it was like very much evoking the style that he was projecting at the time in the public eye. So it felt like it was Bruce Willis on screen and not so much this character, but he's basically is a world famous cat burglar. Okay, so just take that for what it is in its own right. This is a world where that notoriety exists, and it's a loopy, silly film. It's slapstick. Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhardt play insane sibling villains. Andy McDowell is in it. Danny Aiello is like his partner in crime. And and one of the things I remember the audience was thrown by at first was their singing. So the way that they would steal things is they would figure out how much time they needed for a job to steal something. And then they would remember an old standard from like the 20s, 30s, or 40s that would match that time. And so they would sing Swinging on a Star, or they would sing Side by Side. Right. And that's how long it would take them that's how they would time the mission. Right. Yeah. But we would see them sing them. And so it became a musical very briefly in moments of this movie. And the audience didn't know what the fuck to do with that.
Right.
But yeah, David Caruso had a very early role as a mime. And Andrew Bernowski, who you would know is also as Chip Shrek in
Daniel Waters' next
Daniel
movie.
Waters written Batman Returns. So like there were like crazy mercenaries. James Coburn is in it as a character named George Kaplan, which is a joke on North by Northwest because that's the spy. The character in that movie, Cary Grant gets mistaken for in that movie as a spy, an unseen spy named George Kaplan, and it is lunacy, and I love it. And you can watch it on Netflix. If you caught the tail end of our podcast last week when we did Nic Cage and Mom and Dad, after we had talked about it in the main event, so you may have signed off, I was lamenting the fact that I couldn't recommend Series 7, Series 7 : The Contender, which is something I'd like to recommend, but it is not available anywhere. This one, however, is easy peasy lemon squeezy on Netflix. You cheated, so I'll cheat. My cheat is still Series 7. If anyone finds that DVD in their friend's house, just watch it. That's about the only way you're going to see it.
Yeah, right. I told Matt I was very sad that I got rid of my DVD years ago, not realizing I wouldn't be able to get the movie again. Hudson Hawk held up to me. It's not like a perfect movie, but I really enjoy what it's doing, the weirdness of it. I don't think you mentioned them, so I want to mention Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard, just because there are some people.
No, I mentioned them, but I didn't say more.
Okay,
about it. Yeah,
I saw some people discussing Hudson Hawk recently on Twitter, and it's still kind of a divisive movie. I see, because there were some people who were like, "Oh, I love that movie," and there were some people saying, "Oh, I love Richard E. Grant and Sandra Bernhard in it because they're the only ones who sort of knew what they were doing, or sort of like leaned into the weirdness of it." I don't agree they were the only ones who knew what they were doing, but they certainly are operating at like the next level as far as like, this is a ridiculous movie, and we are going to embrace that ridiculous.
I think I incorrectly labeled them as brother and sister just now, but they were husband and wife in the movie.
That's right.
They are a power couple to the extreme. The Mayflowers. Okay, let's get into our main event. But before we do, let's talk about our next actor block. And we will be doing, now, obviously at this point, a Bruce Willis block would make sense, but that's not the direction we're headed at, because we're going to steer away from the male actor and go into the female actor, which is that sounded gross.
That sounded gross, dude. I was thinking, am I going to say anything?
Rephrase that. This was something I had an idea for after I saw Marry Me, which was the first rom-com in forever that actually made it to theaters, starring J-Lo and Owen Wilson. But I also remember the fact that Jennifer Lopez and Owen Wilson had previously worked together decades earlier in Anaconda,
which I had forgotten, and then was like, oh my God, of course.
But then I also remember how much I really enjoyed Jennifer Lopez and her movie career, even with her like full shift into romantic comedies, where she saw her greatest success. But before that, she was doing really interesting projects. Working with Oliver Stone and Steven Soderbergh and the like. So we are going to do a 4-movie J-Lo block. We won't tell you what they are, but it will start.
Jenny from the Block is getting...
That was the song. So Jenny from the Block, if you didn't guess it by now, the song was Jenny from the Block. We are starting with 1997's Anaconda next week, which is very like Hudson Hawk, easily watchable on Netflix. So I think that would make for a very good double feature night.
I'm excited for this because I haven't seen Anaconda in forever, unlike Hudson Hawk. Now, Matt, do I recall that you, me, and Jonah saw Anaconda opening night together? I believe that it happened.
I feel like I saw Anaconda in New York.
Oh, you hadn't moved out here yet. I think you're right. The timing of Anaconda. Okay, so
I saw it with other people, but it wasn't
okay. Jonah was there. You were there in spirit. But I've seen Anaconda since then, but it's been quite a while. So I'm looking forward to revisiting Anaconda.
Our anacondas do want some. As we get into the female actress.
Stop saying that.
I can't now. All right. Let's head into our main event. And Color Out of Space. I was interested in this movie because it looked cool. It's based on a Lovecraft story. And it was directed by Richard Stanley, who directed one of my personal favorite movies that is not well known to a lot of people and probably not anyone's true personal favorite.
You recommended this for sure.
I did. This was a previous
right before unfortunate information came out.
Right after it was there, domestic abuse allegations came out about Richard Stanley. Was Hardware. So, and this is Richard Stanley's career has been sort of sporadic in the sense that he directed 3 movies, 2 movies in the 90s and half a movie, maybe because he got fired off of The Island of Dr. Moreau. And then,
although if anyone hasn't seen the documentary about that, which last I knew was on Shudder, please watch it because it's fascinating.
It's insane. It's insane. This is I would say also loosely based on the H.P. Lovecraft story, The Color Out of Space, which has spawned many adaptations, many loose adaptations, starting with Die Monster Die, which I think was in the 60s. And then leaping to The Curse, starring Will Wheaton in 1987. Did you see that?
No, I did not. No, so here's the thing I was going to ask you about this movie going in, because we talked about Mom and Dad and sort of like the minimal we knew about Mom and Dad going in, but I realized Color Out of Space I knew even less, because Mom and Dad, at least I knew that Mom and Dad snap and try to kill the kids, and that it's like black comedy. This, all I knew is some sort of aliens, or it's a family, Nicolas Cage and aliens. That is literally all I knew. Matt, I didn't know it was based on H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
I had a very funny moment, which is the very opening of the movie, is this voiceover, and I heard Arkham mentioned, and I thought, oh, that's a nod to H.P. Lovecraft. And then a minute later, it said based on the story by H.P. Lovecraft. I said, and then the guy came in with the Miskatonic University T-shirt, and I was like, oh, it's an actual H.P. Lovecraft story.
and the voiceover at the beginning is from the story Color Out of Space. Yeah,
right.
I know the Color Out of Space and other H.P. Lovecraft stories because I, like many people, went through an insufferable piece of shit phase where you just read H.P. Lovecraft short stories. And
I haven't read any Lovecraft. That's the funny thing.
He's not easy to read. I mean, I'm not just saying that because he was a racist piece of shit in real life. I mean, like his prose is sort of like labyrinthine. You know, it's not easy to sort of unlock. But I don't know where Richard Stanley stands now in the realm of Hollywood and his prospects, but he intended this to be the first of a trilogy of Lovecraft adaptations, and he wanted to do the Dunwich Horror next. You and I were Lovecraft adjacent in one of our main events early on in this podcast, because we did In the Mouth of Madness, which wasn't based on H.P. Lovecraft, but was Lovecraft influenced. And also, it'd be funny if you looked away and didn't see that it said based on an H.P. Lovecraft story, and then you're like, whoa, this is like The Thing. Because The Thing is H.P. Lovecraft. You know, that's basically cosmic horror is his deal. And, you know, the funny thing, like Jordan Peele isn't doing necessarily Lovecraft horror, but I really appreciate Jordan Peele's sci-fi horror, because Jordan Peele's jam is Twilight Zone. And so with Get Out and with Us, he is leaning into science horror and not like the boogeyman under the bed horror. And so Nope looks like it's in that vein as well. Like he really is, like he leans into like alien stuff, which you don't see a lot of. this movie, like I said, we're going out on a Nick Cage high here. I wouldn't call this a Nick Cage vehicle because, like Mom and Dad, he's part of a family ensemble.
Yeah.
Playing the dad again, but he's really good in it. The movie, I think, is great. The effects for the budget were amazing, and not only does it remind you of The Thing, obviously because of the mutated people and animals, but like also Annihilation, which is
and the music was also
has a great ambient sort of soundtrack in the back. The score I loved, and but yeah, just the idea of some galactic presence, some cosmic presence coming to Earth, invading Earth, and then we don't know the rules, right? Like, but it is changing us, and it is doing really fucked up things to everything that it encounters in different ways. And watching it, just everything kind of horrifically unravel in front of our eyes, I think is fascinating to watch, because ultimately we get a very, very basic explanation in the end, which is that whatever this life form is that transported to us via meteorite is trying its hardest to remake the world into what it recognizes. And then way at the end, we get a glimpse of the alien world, but like, that's it. That's all we kind of know, is that it's an infection.
It's interesting because, like I said, I've never read Lovecraft. My main into Lovecraft was my absolute love of Reanimator, a movie I've seen a million times, which of course I'm well aware is like taking this comedic sort of, over the top approach. I knew that's not like tonally what Lovecraft is. And then I'd seen a couple other adaptations of his stuff. And then of course I watched Lovecraft Country, and that's when I found out, because I was really not familiar with his work at all. I didn't realize, Matt, that he had this sort of proto Stephen King thing of a slight shared universe with.
Oh no,
Arkham
he had
a town.
So you've heard of Cthulhu, right?
Oh yeah, Cthulhu, which is of course been embraced by so many. And then Arkham is a town, which Arkham Asylum is named after Lovecraft's Arkham, and then Miskatonic, which is, for me, first and foremost, Reanimator, because that's where Herbert West goes. But that Miskatonic is a big part of all of his mythology. So when Ward shows up in this movie wearing which he wears the entire movie, a Miskatonic University T-shirt, I was like, okay. That Stephen King has gone even further with multiple towns, stores, places that connect his universes. But that I was like impressed that Lovecraft was doing that a century ago.
Yes, and Lovecraft, highly influential in many different ways. One of them, like you just mentioned, with Stephen King, the shared universe, the idea of ancient evils hidden in forests, buried under the ground. Even the fact that like that entity is an alien, like that's a cosmic wandering force that devours, is like the Cthulhu mythos is a big part of, obviously, is the most famous part of Lovecraft, and how it all weaves together the ancient elder gods that he has sort of like strangely put into pop culture in various ways, like Hellboy. The villain in that first movie is Rasputin, and it's taken from the comic, but like trying to open a portal to what is basically Cthulhu, because when we're talking about the ancient gods up in space, like the prisons break in space and you see these tentacled creatures coming toward Earth. Obviously Hellboy stops all this from happening, but that was also influenced by that. And you see these influences everywhere. Adaptations of his work don't quite work as well as movies just influenced by him. And so you see that a lot more than just straight out that adaptations. I would consider this movie, and even in the way it is a modern and refocused update of his story. It is still a very much reconfigured adaptation of that, which is totally different. But I still consider it one of the best things I've seen as far as a Lovecraft movie.
Oh, by the way, I also had no idea Elijah Wood was a producer. But I take that back. I think I did in the recesses of my mind know that, because I saw his name and I go, wow. And then I think I kind of vaguely remember hearing that he was a producer on this movie.
I don't know what the status on any of this is, or if it was just all sort of like jabber jawing, but I would love to see a Dunwich horror movie. Like, that would be fucking awesome. And This felt like a really well-directed movie, filmed in Portugal, interestingly. And,
Mhm.
you only need the forest and the house. That's really, it's got a cool, tight setting. You don't really expand beyond that. And so, yeah, let's dig into it. Opens with sort of, for those who know the text from the book, and we've got our outsider, and then in the end, final boy, played by Ward, but Ward Phillips, played by Elliot Knight, who's been in a bunch of things, including part of the DC Universe HBO Max series Titans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I didn't watch Once Upon a Time, so I didn't see him in that. But he's the hydrologist walking around here, and who meets this family that's sort of 12 miles removed from anywhere civilized, and they're out there. We don't get a full explanation, and I appreciate that they're light on exposition in this movie, but we get enough uniqueness and textures to the family. Like the mom has cancer, the dad has alpacas, and
it was his dad's place that he vowed he'd never live at, but instead he ended up fixing up. Right?
And like, did he move there for her health? Is he cooking her favorite foods because she's dying? Like, nothing is said outright, but there's context clues to like fill in the gaps, and it paints a picture of a very full feeling family. And we open with one of the leads of the movie, if not the lead, which is Madeline Arthur's Lavinia.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been in a ton of shit. Not a lot.
The entire trilogy to All the Boys I've Loved Before.
Yeah, I have not seen those.
Yeah.
Stints on
a lot.
you
have. I'm assuming like a lot of. It's funny this was filmed in Portugal because a lot of the cast I assume is Canadian because she was, because they've done all the shows that film in Canada. So if you look at her credits,
is that the sequel to All the Boys I've Loved Before?
Yes,
all the films all the shows that have filmed in Canada. Yeah,
Supernatural, Magicians, X-Files, Legends of Tomorrow. Vancouver. And
then Tommy Chong pops up later on from the comedic duo Cheech and Chong, movie stars in their own right. But yeah, so she's doing a ritual, very interesting thing to walk in on here. It's just a lot of very quirky elements that don't feel completely out of place. Like, she's riding a horse like to her home after doing some protection spell out in the woods in the middle of a circle of stones and evoking the names of biblical angels and stuff like that. And Ward helps this because he's sort of Joe Normal, and he sort of like stumbles upon her while she's doing it. And because he's not like, you're crazy, we're able to sort of accept this sort of kooky, hippie-ish compound that they've got going out in the woods where the Wi-Fi sucks and the mom gets angry.
They have a little flirtation that will go nowhere because her life is going nowhere.
So misdirection, right? Because like who it sets us up to expect like her and maybe one of the other kids, especially the young one, surviving.
When you mentioned just briefly mentioning the end, but you mentioned that he's the final boy. I mean, I would never have expected that at the start. I'd expect either he survives along with her or he dies near the end saving her. I would not expect that he would be the lone person. And
you would also just because expect poor young Jack, played by Julian Hillard, who we should mention was in WandaVision as Billy, and also The Haunting of Hill House.
That's why so familiar.
But also The Haunting of Hill House, Eric.
Yes,
he was young Luke on that.
So familiar. Yeah, another Canada kid. But yes, he was so familiar, and I forgot to look him up. So thank you for placing why I knew him.
But especially him, who gets one of the worst fates in this entire movie. They just the breaking the cardinal rule and like offing the youngest kid in one of the worst ways. Mm-hmm. It wasn't quite the bread slicer from Fear Street, but I mean, like, it was pretty awful. Right. Okay, let's see. So and so we've got the full family unit. We've got Nicolas Cage playing this balance between satire and seriousness, where it's like he's heightened in some moments, but then sort of down to earth in others. And because there's parts where, like, when he's playing a really warm paternal character, it's hard not to think of Kick-Ass, where like that sort of like Ward Cleaver, very specific sort of 50s 60s G golly dynamic in his delivery. But here it works because everything with this family is a little left of quote unquote normal, and so his element still fits. And we've got Jolie Richardson in her second
movie on this podcast.
Her second We Enjoy main event after starring in Event Horizon, another movie where things just fuck with you.
Did not know she was in this movie. I saw her name in the opening credits and I was like, oh shit, okay.
And so, yeah, so they're doing their best. They don't always get along. They bicker, they fight. The mom has cancer. The dad's trying to hold everything together in a certain way. The kids resent being out in the middle of nowhere. They have a well. They have alpacas for some reason. I don't know. And again, the only explanation we get for them are the animal of the future. I don't even understand like why they're there, except that just to sort of add to the kooky element of this family, where it's and
add to the horrific things that'll happen later.
Like, because I was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like 5 alpacas fused together? Oh, man, that'd be gnarly. And then comes, and then like the mom and dad are trying to have sex after a while because of their life and because of her health, and the various kids are doing their various things. The middle son is like, or at least the older brother, I don't know where they fall in age, but is into NASA and is studying black holes. And then everything gets pulled up by its roots because of a meteorite. And here we get the actual color, which is this very sort of wonderful and like magnetic pink, purplish pink, vibrant. That really, it's funny because it takes a color that you don't associate with like being sinister and horrific, and like now you see that throughout this movie, and you just think like, oh, like poison, right?
It's although I'd say it's like a pink purple medley. Like,
yeah. They say pink in the movie. It is very pink, but it's also got like a purple undertow to it. And also we should mention the Necronomicon, which is also Lovecraftian. And so, you even with the Evil Dead movies, Eric, growing up, you got Lovecraft.
Oh, look at all this. Absorbing it by osmosis. I did not realize that.
Things haven't started to go awry yet, except for the fact that we have to sort of, there are a few moments in this movie where we just sort of have to accept the fact that people don't run screaming. Like, the first is the glowing meteorite in the backyard, which outside of the context of a movie, you would get the fuck away from anything having to do with this. And not like, whoa, that's a cool glowing rock. Like, no. The second one comes later on with Ward when his car starts up and the radio starts playing. And he's like, that's a hell of a thing. Like, my truck just started and blasted its headlights at me. Like what a happening. Everything else can be explained by the fact that this force is messing with everything, all of your faculties, from like the concept of time to making you go insane to making you hear things. All of a sudden somebody can be hypnotized and mesmerized and like just zone out. Everyone's sort of snapping in and out of consciousness, and it's making people irritable and tantrumy and blowing up at each other. So after those things, you kind of understand that like no one is actively just running away from the place. Obviously that's a plan later on in the movie, because they're trapped in this sort of psychotic mental prison, and it's slowly eating at them and they don't realize it. But yeah, I like the premise of just something fucking alien rock landing in the backyard and then slowly like eating away at their family. It's very simple.
It's very simple, but it has, sometimes movies just really can grab you with tone, and this one really did. I paused it early on to run to use the bathroom when I passed by Trish, who wasn't watching with me. I go, I really like the vibe of this movie. just because it was one of those things where just like the aura of it, like that meteorite, was drawing me in, and you just felt like very, very sort of assured. I'm sure this was always in the script, and it's not like it's not one of the most popular characters ever, but it was of course funny when nearly Superman Nicolas Cage has that conversation with his son when he's asked, think it's radioactive like kryptonite.
Oh yeah, he was almost Superman. He was in the costume and everything.
I know.
Remember Luthiak?
Yes, I do remember Luthiak.
And part of the joy of this film is watching them. So everything gets so fucked up, but it's like there's a gas leak going on, and so no one's able to respond to it quite normally. And so by the time the mom cuts off 2 of her fingers, and like there's still enough sense that like the dad takes her to the hospital and they're away and she gets surgery and stuff like that. But everything else, like it's like they're just like in this prison that they can't see. And so it makes their reactions make more sense when they don't make any sense. And it explains why. And this is, this is the big question in most horror movies. Why don't people leave? Why don't people do this? Why don't people do X, Y, Z? And so the middle part of this movie really helps sell and explain and build up to the insanity that is the third act.
It's funny because, again, I knew so little about this movie. I guess if I'd always known it was a Lovecraft story, I would have had a very different perception of it. Because, of course, the tipping point, no pun intended, is Julie Richardson cutting off 2 of her fingers. But that threw me in a great way. I was like, what? Like, even though, of course, she's chopping the carrots and it's like, what's going to happen? I thought she was going to whirl around and almost cut her son or something as he's walking up behind her. But just the fact that she just chops him off was a great surprise for me.
Yes, it was. And, they could have done it in different ways. They could have made it a close call because it's setting her up to cut herself. Yeah, but like she doesn't cut herself; she chops her. So it's I thought she was just gonna like nick herself, and like the whole point was like, oh, the mom zoned out. What's wrong with her? But no, they made her actually like and hold up her hand as if she didn't know what
dinner's
happened.
ready. Yeah. And like at that point, as you said, it's like the gas leak thing. It's like, okay, things have gone. It was already getting weird. Like as far as not just the meteorite, but like the vibe of the family was getting weird. But then she chops.
And this is a family that drinks like straight alpaca milk. Like, so it's like the vibe of the family is already weird. And that helps us also dig into the craziness of all of this. And like the film plays with us too, like going from day to night when it doesn't quite make sense at points. And the older brother even mentions it where it's like, it was just morning and now it's nighttime. And it seemed like that, like when it went from them during the day and then it cut to the dad and mom driving home at night. And so it's like, hey, wait, what happened to the rest of the story? Right. So yeah. And I don't know, because there's delusions and illusions going on to the point where this force can make people see things and hear things, because at the end he's watching static with some sort of hidden image behind it, but he thinks he's watching like a Marlon Brando movie, right? Like he thinks he's put on something else. So it's got him trapped in this dream state. As well as like, if it decides to explode its pink purpleness, it will fuse you to something. I don't know what happened to Benny in the well, but like, was he fused to the well? Did he disintegrate? Right. Like, we don't know.
That is it's a little odd that we don't get a specific answer on what happened to him. But also it's funny, the static thing, reminiscent of Mom and Dad, where it's like the sort of static on TVs or even the screen in the hospital seems to be the trigger.
We don't know exactly what happened to him, but the line "Benny lives in the well now" is pretty fucking creepy. So
yeah. Well, but it's funny because earlier the well is a little ethereal, because there's a creepy part earlier when Jack, the little boy, says, "The man in the well is talking to me." And then they hear the dog. The reason Benny goes down there is he thinks their dog is down there. So the well is just kind of an all-purpose creepy thing.
It's the same thing, and I'll bring up Annihilation again, where it's like we don't know the rules. So for all we know, and all that we witness, this family is getting hit with every single horror element that they can be hit with from the genre. Like anything that can happen bad in a horror movie befalls this family.
Right.
Like there's a man in the well. The cat's mutated. There's no, except for the fact that like when you consider that this force is terraforming in a bizarre way, everything around it, but doesn't quite do it right. I don't know. It was really interesting because anything can happen at any point. You don't know what's going to happen next. So
right, it's funny. I'm reading my notes here, and like this is so low on the level of how fucked up things get. But I was like, this is the part where the daughter washing the knife after mom's in the hospital. But I typed cleaning knife, color hits, blackout, sink overflowing, she pukes. It's just like, a lot of things are going on.
And so that was happening while the parents were away. And so like more horrible stuff like starts like messing around with the kids while they're gone, with Benny and like with Jack and all that, where they have to like snap him out of like some day coma. And she has the thing where she's seeing, she doesn't feel well. And it's interesting because Ward tests the water and there's some contamination, and you do wonder, like, ultimately, like at that point, I was wondering how contained will this all be? Like, how many witnesses will there be?
Right.
Are they going to, in the end, blame it on the poison water? And like, the family all killed themselves because of the water, or because will that be the quote unquote real explanation that the media uses? I just like the end where Ward's like, well, I'm not drinking the water anymore.
Right,
that's it. It's like, I'm done with water.
Right. No more water for me, just Coca-Cola. And then, you've got Tommy Chong's character, Ezra, who, this is a somewhat familiar character, which is like the guy on drugs who kind of sees the truth, because he's the one who's like, the people under the floor, dude, the aliens. And he talks about how if you see his cat again, you won't recognize her. So it's like he seems like hyper aware in a little more specific way that it's aliens and that his cat is transformed physically into something else.
And that's exactly what you expect to hear from someone who lives off the grid. Right. The conspiracy brain that we all expect. And and there's just lines in this, and I know the first part comes from the text, Lovecraft text. I do wonder later on, but there are just some lines that are like, the languaging is really ominous and scary in its own right. Like when they walk into Ezra's shed at the end and he's just sort of a dead husk and they're hearing his voice on tape. And he's just like, it came from the stars where things aren't what they are here. It's just a color, but it burns. And like, it's all vague, but also very terrifying at the same time, like his stuff. Like he just repeats, it burns, and it's really effective.
Yeah. And now in the midst of this, when they come back from the hospital, this is where we really start to see sort of everyone kind of losing it. And this is where Cage's character starts to kind of basically become like a split personality almost.
Oh, but I would be very sad if we chose a movie that didn't feature a Nicolas Cage freak out.
Oh no, completely.
As our final Cage movie. So
completely. The big quote for me here was, "Get the fuck out of my sight." No, actually, I'll save you the trouble. Get the fuck out of yours. And he's doing a voice that totally threw me. And then I realized it's on its way to his Peggy Sue Got Married voice, which I've mentioned this before, how Peggy Sue was very early in his career and almost like derailed his career because the studio was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Because he talks in this, he's supposed to be playing like Kathleen Turner's like teenage love, and he's doing this crazy voice. But in that movie, it was even weirder because he's just supposed to be like a 1950s teen. And this is his like alternate voice. Like when he starts to like lose it, because then he'll go back to normal and he'll speak in like a low key, underplaying Nicolas Cage voice.
My freak out notes here were him trying to start the car and going, "You cocksucker," and then he goes, "Ah ha ha," like he goes going, "Ah," like screaming over and over again, freaking out in the car.
Right.
I'm just happy that we have multiple freak out moments to choose from.
Yes.
But yeah, let's get into basically the most disturbing part of this movie, and there are several, but one is the fact that like the mom and youngest son get trapped in a blast of sort of pink mist and pollen that fuses them together, where she is actually absorbing him into her body, and they're just sort of stuck like that in a way that you would see in The Thing, as like things that just like meld together. And
also reminded me that although The Thing absolutely came to mind of, especially with the alpacas, and to some extent with that, but also very Cronenberg, specifically The Fly, the fusing together of things that shouldn't be fused together.
But like, and it's an extended, because that this these two entities fused together aren't killed until several minutes later, and so they're in agony. They're just like in this absolute agony, and so it is upsetting. Like this poor kid who's just like, these are his final moments on Earth.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's all horrific. It's on the heels, by the way, of Lavinia starting to cut herself, which at first you're like, oh no, she's cutting her arm, but then it turns out she's just carving up her entire body with like symbols and words. And
so it seems like even her attempt to protect herself via her rituals is hijacked by whatever insanity this alien essence sort of imparts to you. And so she goes overboard and starts with a box cutter, carving all these symbols and words and runes into herself in a futile attempt to just cause herself a lot of pain before she ultimately disintegrates anyway. Right. But yeah, and so the scene reads to me like the dad intended on putting them out of their misery, but when he kissed her and she had like the pink goo on her lips, it like convinced him to not do it, I guess, because then he just goes downstairs.
I can see it either way. I can see it being literally like that's like a physical influence, or it's just he can't do it. Again, totally fucked up that he's like, I have to kill my wife and son who are fused together, and then he starts to kiss. For a split second, man, I'm like, please let him not start to have sex with her, because they kiss like pretty passionately. I was like, oh no.
Well, it's been a long time.
Right. Which he made sure to tell the mayor, played by Terrence Malick's Pocahontas. I cannot say her name right, that actress.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, she's been on Yellowstone recently. It's like Coracana Kilcher. But yes, played the mayor who did not want to be brought all the way out to their farm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Have I did see her. Actually, I have seen her in something besides The New World, which was she was on The Alienist, which I don't know if you caught.
I did not, but I saw her on an episode of Drunk History,
which is the same thing. Okay,
very similar.
All right, yeah. So but the thing is, Eric, when he goes downstairs, it's like he's back in the dream.
Right.
And like that's when he's like putting on movies for his wife and thinking he's seeing things he's not. And at this point, and so we should mention offsite, the sheriff shows Ward animals that he's found, like fucked up birds and cats and things in the back of his truck, that like things that got caught in sort of the zone of this, alien infection. And so he and Ward head back to the family estate, and the sheriff isn't like a full-fledged character, but he does give us another body drop. He gives us another victim in the end, which is cool. The Gardner family, I didn't really like catch their name as far as like the clan, but yeah, the Gardner family, they come back out. They stumble upon something they never thought they'd see. This whole area is taken over by this color. And
this is obviously a very Annihilation with the growing that.
Oh yeah. And at that point, should mention, so Benny's already been taken by the well. Benny and Lavinia were trying to escape Benny thought he heard a dog, went in the well, got the horse ran off, so she can't go anywhere. And
the horse, which we see has the pink purple eyes, so the horse was gonna
mutate into something.
Yeah.
And the father comes and actually takes her and locks her in the attic. And at this point, when Ward and the sheriff show up, the mom Jack creature is trying to eat her.
Yes.
I don't know what snaps the dad out necessarily, but this is when he decides that he can kill.
I mean,
his
I
wife
guess
and
it's
son with a
just
shotgun.
briefly seeing his daughter about to be killed, I guess.
I would say this too, which actually there's the line that made me kind of laugh. I don't remember laughing at anything else in this movie. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, except for the line when the sheriff and Ward return and Nathan's like, everything's gone to complete utter nightmarish shit, and he's like, life in the sticks,
right.
But yeah, so there's a
also,
moment
I was
here.
wondering at this point, kind of like you with the kiss, like I was like, I think I put in the notes, like, did Lavinia get like gross mom juice in her mouth? Like,
She by the end she's possessed completely.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe. And I'll just say that Nathan, the dad here, is a good guy in this moment because he was killing his wife, he was putting his son out of his misery, and then it seems like when the pink color is coming out of the well, he aims his gun at the well.
Right,
but
the sheriff thinks
he's aiming it at Ward. Exactly. Yeah. So he is after the actual enemy and not
he dies trying to help them. Yes.
And so, yeah, we figure he does die from that. And when we see him again at the end, he is just sort of like possessed by the
well, yeah, because the whole family is there. So
the galactic goop.
That's the goop family. But again, not that I was shocked that he would die at the end of this movie, but shocked that I was surprising that he was taken out before like the conclusion. He's not even part of like.
Yeah, because we go to after him. We still go to Ezra's house. The tree eats the sheriff. And then the final moment really is not the final moment, which is, Ward escaping the explosion and the family and all that. But like Ward seeing Lavinia, who is completely taken over by this power, and then getting the cosmic glimpse of the alien
and Lavinia
homeworld.
dying very she like burns up like a phoenix, Yeah,
it goes up. And because at this point, there's like some weird tunnel wormhole going up into space.
That was a cool visual.
Yeah. The effects were great.
Also, I guess I'll slightly disagree with you in that I thought they showed their budget, but they're so creative. It was like one of those things where I didn't mind that I could tell their effects in that they all worked for me because they didn't look 100% realistic. They were like visually worked, like they were so creative that I was just like, oh, I love how this looks. So even though sometimes it like was like a little bit like, oh, this isn't like ILM level.
No, but I mean, like
it's
like a $10 million budget movie. So
I love that sort of it looked like a tornado into space.
That was great. Really cool. I loved it. Yeah. And then and so then Ward, final boy, and I don't know what the ultimate resolution is here, like if it ends with the family or if anything's contained, or if the water, he mentions the water, he hopes it's deep underground.
I guess the implication, and I only know this because I was reading the synopsis online, but it's like I didn't quite understand this or didn't quite catch it the first. It's like, okay, it's like that dam was built where their farm was, so it's like this implication of like oh, will everything here be contaminated? Is like the water just gonna make everyone contaminated?
Oh, so maybe they sealed it in, sort of
something like that. Yeah.
All right. Well,
maybe. I mean, it's a great visual when he climbs out and everything's like ashen white. And I didn't know for a second. Then they back up and you see where it turns green again, because I thought it might be a Ward is the last man on Earth like thing. Like I was like, is everything gone? No. It wasn't. It was like contained. But I think like you could read that ending to be like, but it's going to spread or something, who knows with this, if they've put a body of water where they used to be. Yeah. And he says the title of the movie.
He does, the titular line.
It must be from it sounded like it was from the story to me, but yes.
Yeah, it was. And Yeah, he said it. He said the name of the movie. All right. Nicolas Cage, Color Out of Space. Yeah, glad I got to see this. Really good.
Yeah, I really dug it. Another one, Matt, this one I even had a ticket for because it was a free screening. So I just registered to go, but there was some schedule snafu. But these last two, very happy to see them both. And I enjoyed Mom and Dad. And then this one I really dug.
I wonder if he did any other movies where he was just part of a family that all dies or like tries to kill each other in some way.
That could be its own run. Yeah, they could do like a trilogy.
He just wants to play the patriarch of like a family Doomed. That completely and awfully implodes somehow,
right.
Due to kind of unexplained reasons. I mean, I guess this was more explained than Mom and Dad in a way. We don't know what was behind any of that one. So this one, at least we can chalk up to evil ETs out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Bad guys.
That alien planet looked fun. So many tentacles. I love it. Next week, speaking of things that writhe and wriggle, next week, Anaconda, right?
Yeah.
Which have not seen in a long time, but I sure remember enjoying it when I saw it. When's the last time you saw Anaconda? You said it was a while, right?
It's a while. Like it was on cable, so but I'm still it might have been 20 years. You know, it was like his movie came out in 97. Then it was on cable a bunch, and I watched it once in a while. But I bet it's been about 20 years since I've watched Anaconda.
Maybe me too. Mm-hmm. I do remember that Ice Cube punches the Anaconda and says, "Bitch."
Don't no spoilers, man.
I mean, yeah. Sorry if I spoiled the bitch. The bitch punch. Which possibly could be the highlight of the movie. I don't think so. I think problematic actor Jon Voight is one of the highlights because he's playing a ridiculous cartoonish Cajun who grimaces.
We had a problematic director today, problematic actor next week.
Look,
life's complicated.
Swing a dead cat. You're gonna hit a problematic somebody. Artists, they're so tortured. They're so tortured that they are complete assholes who cause pain to most people in their lives. Okay. Until next time, when we talk about Jenny from the Block, everything is possible, but nothing is real. And Shakma.